what is tantra really? Because it seems like tantra is everything. Before Massimo shared some articles with me, I thought it was about sex, and then after I read his articles, then it seems it's like it's about everything. It's like it seems it's just spirituality, and it's also the 8-limb path of yoga. So I have a kind of if someone could explain to me for dummies,
in a nutshell, tantra is energy. Tantra is in the clouds, it's in the leaves of the trees, it's under the rocks, it's everywhere. Tantra is energy. That's what the whole school of thought of tantra is about, is connecting with that energy. It's almost like the fractal universe. And when you can connect with that, especially when you connect with another soul on this world and channel that energy, then you can use tantra to create magic.
That sounds great, but Massimo also said it's the philosophy of love. Are you here, Massimo?
Yes, I am here. I am here. Wait a second. What David said is correct. In Tantra, we definitely use the energy, the Shakti. Though there are different paths in Tantra. One is about becoming one with the Shakti, so it's called a Shaktism. But there are other paths in which Tantra is supposed to be about merging with Shiva, the consciousness. Shakti is the energy, the principle, the creative principle. Shiva is the consciousness that is witnessing the energy. So we can choose, either we fall in love with the energy, or we fall in love with the consciousness, or we fall in love with both. So we can become both at the same time, consciousness and energy. And so we have these two parts inside us. We have the Kundalini Shakti arising, falling in love, going through the chakras, the Kundalini, and merging on top of the crown with Shiva, embracing Shiva, embracing the consciousness. So the consciousness understands who he is, understand his potentialities, his energy, his creative power. And the two are making love with each other in the Sahasrara chakra. So
It
the
sounds
real
like the chakras.
yeah, it is an esoterical way to represent the journey of the human being. It's a symbolic way to represent this journey of the human being toward the realization of who we really are, because we are Shiva and we are Shakti, and we make love inside ourselves with these two archetypes, with these two principles. And when these two principles are merging, we have this orgasmic mystical experience. And when I say orgasmic, I say it not in a literal sense, but in a analogical way, in a poetical manner, like Rumi, yes, like in the poetry of Rumi. We make yes, love in an orgasmic way with the divine, with the universe. So when the energy and the consciousness are merging, we have a mystical experience that we might describe almost like an ecstasy, an orgasm, but it's something spiritual.
Yeah, it's when we merge with the emptiness, when we go into the great void and we have that epiphany experience that only the vehicle of real love, not the old paradigm's version of love, but the real love that is from our deepest well in our hearts and souls. And that was such a great explanation. You know, and this is the view we need to have. We can't have this crazy old paradigm view of sexuality involved in this this great tradition, because this is a vehicle that we all need to get on that ride so that we can have that experience and understand what the hell this is all about.
Bravo.
Can I ask you a question? Agree. Can I ask you a question? Because like when I read the article that you sent, Massimo, it was like I got the impression that Tantra is not ascetic. So it's like embracing that you also have a body and you have needs, bodily needs. And, you know, the way I understood it, that's something that is makes tantra different from some of the other religions in a
Yes.
way.
Just,
And when you're talking
just
about it, I'm kind of, okay, we are our brain, and we can be very abstract and we can be religious, but we are also our body. So like the
Correct.
Kundalini is about using that energy
mm,
and merging that with the kind of the spirit or the religious.
It's
Yeah.
all encompassing.
so another way. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh,
wonderful.
hello, great. So just another way, just to try and understand Tantra, is that basically I was reading an article this afternoon. It's kind of like moving from the physical into, as what's our friend's name? Massimum Barberi said, it's moving from the physical and into the true self that we are. And the way I see it is basically look at it like your masculine and feminine energies. Inside of us, we all have masculine and feminine energy. So if you, what I do in quiet time, I focus on taking my masculine energy and I gently radiate it into the feminine energy. Sometimes I feel tightness in the lower three energy centers. So I gently radiate the energy into that area. That area starts to open, and then I just focus on these two energies connecting and building that energy and moving the energy from the base of my spine, which is like physical, right up into my brain through the energy centers and activating the brain and energizing the pineal gland. And then when I do that, then you start accessing your true essence. And as Masi said, then you have like it's like an orgasm. You're having like an orgasm in your brain, but it's a very sacred kind of feeling where you don't have to ejaculate.
No,
That's
I
the
call
whole
it the
point.
white heart
It's so
orgasm.
interesting how you're using this word of orgasm, and it makes us all one tantra. But how can we use it in our everyday
It's
life?
transcendental, though.
Because
it's not,
the
Yeah, now we have to be very for dummies. Like
the whole point of using it in everyday life, the way I see it, is that when we do inner work, we have to sort out our own stuff, our own pain from the past. We have to get in touch with our own inner being. And when we do that, then we become a person that can give to others. We become more compassionate. We tap into our power, which we need to create and manifest what we want in life. So on a very practical level, Tantra to me, I've never really studied Tantra actually, but I've spent 30 years working on my inner being. And the first article I saw this afternoon said it's about moving from the physical into the spiritual, and you're using your body to do that. It's very much about using your pleasure and transforming that physical pleasure into energy, and then working with the energy to access the higher self. So by doing the inner work, we then are able to be a person that's not focused on taking. We can come from a place of giving in life and becoming oneness. That's what we all need. That's what we're all longing for. And just to sum up, what I feel is that the only way we all actually want to experience deep sensual blissfulness, sacred blissfulness. The only way we can do that is by getting the masculine and the feminine energies to unite. And they
they
create
call it the Mahamudra.
yes, they create something that you can't have on your own. You have to get the masculine, the feminine, as Masi said, the consciousness and the Shakti, I think you said, but it's really merging
Shiva
together.
Shakti.
Yes.
Shiva and
I
Shakti
do think I
coming together.
understand. I do think I understand what you say, but you're talking about pleasure, and sometimes, people say it's not a good thing to be hedonist.
Pleasure
Like if you,
pathway.
or you can be addicted to pleasure, and
Yeah.
The problem,
that's a different pleasure than the
yes,
pleasure that you're
cor-
talking about.
that-
And I think
that's
that's interesting.
yes, that's a brilliant point, because there's egoic pleasure, right? There's egoic pleasure, and the way I see egoic pleasure, it's when I'm coming from a place of ego, all I want to do, I'm lusting and I want to take, right? But the egoic pleasure is actually poison, because from a male point of view, I talk for myself. From a male point of view, when I come from egoic pleasure and I want to just satisfy the egoic pleasure, which leads to ejaculation, it just leads to powerlessness, and it's poison. It destroys my energy. So that's why we've got to move away from that. That's why the whole thing is you've got to use the pleasure, and we've got to clear away all the beliefs around pleasure. A lot of us have bad, negative beliefs around pleasure. Maybe we were raped. Maybe we were taught it's not okay to masturbate. It's not okay to feel your pleasure. So we've got to clear away all those beliefs, because the way to the truth and to the true essence, what I've found, is through pleasure. We've got to feel the pleasure and work with it and transform it. That's the
I
key.
very much agree with you, but how is this relevant for food, for example? I mean,
Sorry?
you can have pleasure from eating good foods, but you can have an unhealthy relationship to food. So does that mean you
Yeah,
have
but
to love
yeah,
food more in a
no, no, that's
non-egoistic
no,
way? Massimo,
that's
you want to say something?
Yeah, I think the key of this question stays in an ancient text of the yoga tradition called, is one of the Upanishad. It's a difficult name. It's called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I can write it later
Yes,
under
can I
the,
just say that if people have questions, they can use the chat. Just write any question you want
yeah.
in the chat, and then people can answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And later I will write this title of this text on the Facebook page. So in this ancient text from the Upanishad, it's written that Brahma, the final entity, God, the divine archetype of the universe, is not in one specific place. They say in this philosophical book, they say Brahma, they have a conversation in that book. Now, the philosophy says Brahma is in the sun, and the other say, no, come on, Brahma cannot be only in the sun. And then the other says, Brahma is in the moon, and the other said, no, cannot be only in the moon. So they discuss like this for a while. They say, you know what? Brahma, the final state of realization, the divine entity, is actually everywhere.
Massimo, you have to
Is
ask
in
the
you,
question about
is in the moon. I'm coming to your question. So if Brahma, if the divine is everywhere, then every aspect of our everyday life, when we are eating, when we are having sex, when we are working, when we are taking care of our family, whatever we do in our life, can become a process of meditation to enter in contact with Brahma. So Brahman is not far away, is not in heaven. Brahman is here, the divine is here. So our approach has to change. Our way of dealing with
Yes.
our actions has to change.
But
If we do
I
our
just
action,
wonder if someone can explain to me, how can I use the pleasure for food, for eating, to get in contact with this divine love? How if I
it
eat,
depends.
how do I do
It
that?
depends, Christine. It depends on your ideation. It depends on how you rely to your food. So in Tantra, for example, in traditional Tantra, they use one technique based on mantras. So they use mantras not only when they do meditation in Padmasana, but they use mantras in many moments of their life. For example, before eating, they do a mantra, they close their eyes, they have an ideation in their
It's like
mind.
prayer a little bit. They kind of
It's a
praying
bit different
for
because a
the food.
prayer is like if you're asking something to somebody that is far away. This type of approach is not tantric. In Tantra, you don't ask anything to anyone because that creates distance. If you ask something, if you pray for something, it means that you're not satisfied with what you have already, and you're praying to an entity that is far away from you. So that's not a tantric approach. In Tantra, there are no prayers. That's religion. In Tantra, there is a relationship of love. There is a romance. So in Tantra, you see your lover in your food. And to eat that nice food is like to eat your lover. You make love with your lover, the divine lover, while you eat.
Yes. Exactly.
That food is energy, is a representation of energy, is Shakti. So when you eat that food, you eat the body of Christ, for example, like they say in Christianity, you eat something divine that enters in you, that is part of you, is divine like you, and you have a communion, even when you're eating.
But isn't that mindfulness? Isn't that the same as mindfulness?
No.
You might call it mindfulness too. Depends though, because mindfulness can be very dry and very neutral. It's not a romance.
Connective.
There is no love in mindfulness. It's
Okay.
just attention. It's something dry.
See,
That's
Okay,
why, in
so
my
add the
opinion,
divine
mindfulness.
to eating and
Hang
being
on.
mindful.
It's about
Maybe.
connection. It's about connecting. We've forgot how to connect. When we're having sex, we're thinking about our own pleasures. But when you are like actually attempting to connect with another soul, then you are looking for them. You are looking for their energy, just like they are looking for your energy. And when you can connect on that high level, and for you eventually you switch, the poles switch, you become masculine, they become feminine, and then they dissolve. Then it's a genderless expression of connecting, connecting to those flavors, to that sensation that you have through joy and being in a state of ecstasy, because you can actually immerse yourself in another soul. How awesome is that? That's Mahamudra.
But now we're going to practice Tantra. And I think, Renate, could you lead the practice?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Before we start, just because I come from a little bit of a different tradition, what we normally say is that everything exists of consciousness and form, consciousness and energy, and that the Tantra is the weaving and the expansion. So you weave your consciousness into whatever experience you have, and you allow its essence and its movement and its energy to expand into your consciousness. So it's both an aspect of releasing the energy or the essence or of an experience or of an object or of a person, and also about weaving the consciousness into it. And everything is an expression of life, an expression of God, of consciousness and form. So you can use whatever to focus on to get into this contact of what we often call Shiva and Shakti. So I was thinking that we could start by connecting to our hearts, our physical hearts, because we are coming back a little bit later in the discussion to whether it's sexual and whether it's feminine and masculine and everything. So we can do a little practice then that's more connected to the feminine and the masculine and to the sexuality and all of these things. But in the tradition that I'm part of, every organ in the body has its own intelligence. It's a specific form. It's a specific form shaped around a specific consciousness. So you can use whatever organ or whatever part to focus on. It's the Durban Tibetan tradition. Celeste asked me, so So there's several steps, because you were talking about what's the difference between Tantra and mindfulness and everything. And Tantra is very much about grounded spirituality. It's about form. It's about body. It's about the physical life, the life here and now. And it also has the eternal life, the Shiva, the consciousness as part of it. But you use the body, you use your physical experiences as a portal into both these aspects, both the energy aspect and so you can experience the dance of life directly. So the first level often to connect with, for instance, your heart, is to just visualize it. So if you start with your eyes closed or your eyes open, and you just visualize your physical heart in the middle of your chest, and you can visualize it very anatomically, or you can visualize it more colorful, creative, energetically, and just see if you can connect with this visualization, feel the essence of this visualization. Just breathing into it, allowing it to become alive. And then you can place your hand on your chest, on your heart, your physical hand on your physical chest. And see if you can, again, maybe you would like to close your eyes and just allow for consciousness to float or awareness to float to your hand and to the physical heart within the chest. And see if you can feel the physical heart with your hand. If you can feel the beating, if you can feel its shape or its volume in any way. On a purely physical level with your hand, with the physical sensations of your body, your nervous system. And then you allow for your awareness to float even deeper into this physical heart. And just experiencing it from the inside, just floating your consciousness, your awareness into this physical heart, beating in the middle of your chest. Being kind of the motor of this physical expression called you. And whatever it is that you are experiencing, when you float your attention, your awareness into your heart, is the perfect experience right now. There's no right and wrong in this. So just allow for this experience, your experience, to stay with you a little bit longer. And take a deep breath in and just breathe out, release the whole experience. Since we have a very short time, this is just a very, very short taste of one way of working with the physical body. Then you can work with the energy body. Then you can work with the emotions and the thoughts. And then you can work with your spiritual body, you could call it.
Wow, this was great. I was thinking that I wanted to treat my heart in a nice way since I'm now connected with my heart.
Yeah, and it could be absolutely those kinds of things, or you could have anatomical experiences, or you could have there's many, many, many levels of experiencing anything.
Yeah, this was super cool. We have to do this more. But anyways, now we've tried the practicing tantra, and that was super interesting. And you have all these different strands of tantra. I don't know if we have the time to go into that. We already did discuss some of that though. But what I find is interesting with tantra is that it kind of does not deny your body. It takes the point of departure from your body and kind of tries to merge the Shakti with the, I don't know if that's the right word.
A woman's body is the vehicle. And when a man and woman can connect to that vehicle and their consciousnesses can merge, that vehicle can take you to the intense bliss of emptiness.
Yeah, that is also something that we could explore more. But I wonder if, I see Massimo is waving his hand also, because I was interested in the link with shamanism, because if Tantra is the philosophy of love, maybe that's the link to shamanism, that you love everything.
Making magic.
Like you love the ants and you love everything in nature. Is that how it's connected to shamanism?
Yeah,
and also the fact that it's physical.
And becoming
God
one
in
with
physical
everything
form.
in the material universe and all realms.
Yeah,
shamanism was some kind of religion without a religion, was a natural spirituality, of the ancient times. So at that time, for the ancient people, it was just obvious the divine was everywhere. The divine was in nature, and we were part of the nature too. So we were divine too. So our
The law of
body
one.
was a body representing the divine as well. For example, my last book is called Symbiosis, a little bit of publicity, Symbiosis. And there I talk precisely about that, about the fact that we should not see the nature as something separated from us, but
Wonderful.
like we are together with it in symbiosis. So the divine is not far away. There is no hell, there is no heaven. The divine is here, heaven is here, and we can have a relationship with it at every breath that we take. When we breathe in, we are feminine, we receive something. When we breathe out, we are masculine, we penetrate, we enter into something. So it's a love affair at every breath that we take. It's a divine love affair. That is Tantra.
Where can we get your book? This is perfect.
I think on
You
Amazon.
can write it in the chat perhaps, or you can write it also in the
Here's mine.
later.
My book is called Soul-Kissed Tantric Tales of Mahamudra. It's the love story of consciousness.
Beautiful.
You and I are very connected on this.
Looks very interesting.
I'm a sustainability researcher. So in my head, this connects very well with the agenda of sustainability, where you try to be more in what can I say? I mean, if you love everything, if you love nature and you're part of nature, how can you harm nature in a way? And that's kind of what
it's symbiotic, like he says. We are one with all things. It's Lemurians, their law of one, and we're all headed back towards there. And it's these kind of discussions that are helping all of our awareness understand that, oh my God, this is right. This rings true. So when we do that, we expand our collective consciousness and start moving towards the real goal, which of course is what you're talking about, is that symbiosis.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Beautiful.
Yeah. So we've been kind of separated from ourselves with the systems that we're built up, and now we're trying to find back to.
Because it is nicer when we separate ourselves. It is nicer than after to come back to ourselves. We will not experience such a beautiful pleasure, such a beautiful bliss, if we were not losing ourselves first. You understand it? It is a game. It's just a game. It's a theatrical game of God. God wants to lose itself inside his own game. It's a divine comedy, like Dante Alighieri used to say. God loses himself inside his own creation, and he does it because it's fun, because after that he can refine himself through a human journey, and that is much fun. We are here having this conversation because it's fun, it's a pleasure, it's a bliss.
In my book, I talk about how consciousness and awareness are sort of, while they're part of the same thing, but awareness is the mirror for consciousness. So consciousness can understand itself. And when we have conversations like this, and we can direct consciousness towards this, then this is where consciousness resides. And the more we can direct consciousness through the Tantra to connect through love and compassion, the more love and compassion will flourish in our world.
There are a lot of concepts that are connected, and there are subtle differences between them, but it's like I get the impression that they're very similar, and that Tantra encompasses it in a way. But I get like the essence of Tantra now. I don't know if we could open the floor for questions and then start to maybe make some concluding remarks. I think this has been super interesting, and I would love to dive into this more. Maybe we can make Yeah, Justin, do you have a question?
I would like to add something, if it's possible.
Okay, so Torgeir first, and then Justin
Yeah.
after that. Yeah.
I would like to add something about the love affair with the universe. I feel like out of everything, I picked one role. So maybe I was young, and that means that the other persons around me, they need to play yin. Or if I pick one number, the other ones must pick the other numbers. So it's like out of a wholeness, I've picked one role, and the universe and people around me, they play the other roles. And I have a love affair with the universe.
Yeah, in Hinduism, they call
And
it the
together we are
universal
one.
form.
So, yeah, maybe that was a bit not so easy, but it's nice. So it's like the universe and everything that is in it is my lover.
Yeah.
An interesting statement, but it was not a question, but it's still interesting as a kind of reflection.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also, if I have a woman in Tantra, I have learned a lot of things of what is the masculine and what is the feminine, and it makes me it's so that I kind of know what she wants in a way, and know what I want and what role I. So, like, say I'm from a undivided soul, or I could incarnate as a man or a woman, but I'm incarnated as a man. So if I meet a woman, we can in a way be whole together. So we can create a kind of more complete whole.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Surrender
Oh,
and
but
allow.
you know, we'll have more. I see now that we need more Tantra webinars, but Justin has also has a question.
Yeah. Kind of in reference to the last point you guys were talking about the divine comedy of existence and God. I've been reading a bit into Gnosticism lately as a recommendation from a coach, and kind of this idea that, like the Gnostic idea that existence was kind of an accident, like it was like a cosmic bloop and we're here, and the sense of almost non-belonging in the physical world and the lives we live in is in a sense divine, because it connects us back to our divinity where we truly belong. And I'm just wondering what your kind of perspectives are on that, how Tantra connects to that. How do you balance full pleasure in the moment while also knowing that, you know, or maybe not knowing, wrestling with the idea that we're not in fullness in this, in a body, in a life on planet Earth?
I think
If
just
that
an
makes
idea.
sense.
I think Renata has raised her hand. Or do you?
Yeah. Well, in Tantra, there's no mistake. There's no bloop that separated us. It's consciousness, as Massimo was talking about, wanting to experience itself through form, or getting lost in the comedy of life. So even now we are not in fullness, because when you're in fullness, you can't experience the polarities, you can't experience the different parts, you are only resting in fullness. So intention is what brings you into life, the intention of experiencing things. And then you also have the genetic and the family story, and it's a bit different, a bit difficult, but not difficult, but intricate. But it's not an accident, and it's not bad that you are not experiencing or not being all of you. You are experience a specific part of life and a totally specific, unique experience, and you're doing it fully for the benefit of all of us.
Also,
I'm gonna say it better myself. Perfect.
Also,
So
if I can
first,
just, sorry.
yeah.
Also, if I can just add to what Justin brought up, I think the very fact that we have duality, that we have opposites, is very important, because how would we ever be able to appreciate the light if we don't know what darkness is? How would we be able to appreciate true sacred pleasure if we didn't know what the pleasure of the ego is that causes separation? So it's very important that we have both sides, so that we can understand both sides and then make a decision about what path we want to what path we want to walk, knowing both sides.
Well, there's also the Gankal in Tibetan Buddhism. Of course, there's the yin and yang, but the Gankal is the three, which is the male, female, and neutral. And of course, in physics, we find that also there. But it's when you can take these energies and become the observer and melt those energies together, that's when you lose yourself and you actually enter into that broader sense of consciousness and in oneness that your Renato was talking about.
Yeah.
Is that a sort of flow, like Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi wrote about flow? It resembles mindfulness, but it's like when you're totally lost in what you're doing. Is that something of this?
Definitely. I think that when you learn to work with the two energies and you harmonize them, as David said, then that's how you access the flow state, the zone.
And then you lose yourself.
Yes.
But Mihaly is saying that you can do this while you do the dishes. Like you don't have to do what you love. Like
An
you don't
adept
have to...
can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Pain is a very good way into Tantra. It's not always a nice way, but it's a very effective way.
You have to explain.
Yeah, I can explain that. Because everything, the more intense the experience is, the more energy there is, the more there is to work with, the more that you can dive into. But it, of course, demands the ability of being present or aware or conscious into the moment. But when we experience pain, it's very often because we identify, we idolize, we should be in something else. Things should be different, except if we are talking about burning your hand on the stove, then it's the nervous system. But you can go deeply into that also. It's possible. You can go into, like they do with going trance, into putting fish hooks through the skin and everything. You could go there also, but I might not recommend that as an everyday practice for people not being trained. But you can go into like painful emotions. If you go deeply into painful
emotions, aren't we supposed to be enlightened, being just letting things go and not?
We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and that's part of it.
Yeah, we are getting lost in the game, kind of. We over identify with the game, and that's where pain happens. Because if like a relationship ends, this is of course, but if a relationship ends, and if you were totally present, and if it was kind of supposed to end, you would be able to release it, to let it go, just in love and being thankful for everything that happened, see everything that you learned, that you share, that you exchange.
I want to learn that.
And then releasing it. Yeah, start practicing Tantra. No problem.
What Renata says about being present, that's a big deal. You know, being present when you are doing any of these practices, I think is a bit more than mindfulness. I think being present, being in the now, being connected there with somebody is the key to actually having these experiences.
I've had a big discussion on several Facebook groups, and I've asked people what's the difference between being in the flow, being here and now, and being mindful. And now we have Tantra as a fourth option. So kind of distinguishing between these states is kind of hard. But yeah, this is I see this as only a beginning for me at least. But getting to know more about Tantra and experiencing Tantra seems even more interesting, and using tantric practices. I don't know how much patience I have with becoming an expert in Tantra.
It's a very big subject you're tackling here. I'm sure looking at Massimo's book or looking at my book, I don't know if Renata has a book, but you know, it's a lot of research and reading, and then understanding and experiencing. Experience is top of the list, because when you have those indelible experiences, they will stay with you and continue your expansion.
Yeah, I totally want to continue this conversation, and also with the focus on the practice and how we can use the concepts in practice, because that also you know makes it easier to understand. So
breath and chakras.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That, and again, a thing, you know, that's linked to the tantric tradition. So I would say I'll try to find out, because I'm not a very technical person. So I'll try to find out how the units tab. I still haven't found the units tab on the group, because then I could start like a unit for Tantra, and then we can kind of develop it and find resources there. So that's my plan, at least. And you
brought some wonderful people together, and this is right on point. And I hope the people watching can appreciate what you've brought together. I'm very thankful and grateful for this.
I agree.
Can I just suggest something? Sorry, before we drop off, can we all just take 15 seconds and just share what did you gain from tonight, so we can learn from each other?
Very good suggestion.
Yeah.
You can put it in the chat if you don't want to talk.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah. Anybody who wants to just share, I'd like to learn from what.
Yeah.
Anyone?
So I would like to just say that this has just confirmed to me, and there are many paths to the same goal, which is divine love and unity consciousness.
Nice. What I got from tonight is just the excitement of working with people that are on the same page, that are open to what I want to teach and want to learn as well. It's fantastic to work with like your tribe. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, and I thought it was fantastic to practice the Tantra and just feel how it felt like. And I'm just even more interested, and I'm very grateful that you all could come here and contribute, because that's been so interesting for me, and I think for everyone else. Like on the Zoom, many people are timid, but if you don't want to talk and say something in the chat or on video, you can share on the group afterwards. And you can also, of course, tell us what do you want the next webinar to be about.
Actually, I wanted to say before that what you have done, what you are doing, Christine, is exactly a sort of tantric initiation, because you're doing service, selfish service to the community, organizing these things, and that is Tantra. It means that you feel that the others are part of you, and you want to take care of them. You want to give them something special. This is Tantra in the real life.
So I can call myself a tantrika now, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes, of course you can. This is Tantra.
Yeah. So let's not say goodbye, just let's say looking forward to the next webinar, where we can be more, to find this. You can all propose what you would like to talk about, and thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oceans of love.
Bye.
It was a
Oceans of
pleasure.
love.
Thank you all.
Bye. Namaste.